In the endless dark of the outer fringe, where even starlight grew thin, a whisper ran through the void, a whisper of extinction. No one knew where it started, but the aftermath was undeniable. Systems that once glittered with trade, pride, and power now lay in ruin. Cores cracked, fleets vaporized, rulers dead or vanished. There was no warning, no declaration, just silence. Then fire. Before the fall, they called us primitive. Earth was that speck of blue barely holding its ground on the galactic map. We weren't part of the Galactic Council. We weren't even a registered sovereign species by their standards. They said we were still fighting each other with metal bullets and atmospheric vehicles. And maybe we were, on the surface. But under that surface, far beneath the oceans and buried within dead moons, we built gods. He remembered the first one. Not the warship itself, but the meeting where it was approved. General Tavik wasn't supposed to be there. Just a middle-rank strategic analyst with too many scars and not enough patience. But the old bastard who should have chaired the meeting had a stroke 2 hours before it began. And Tavik, half drunk on recycled air and stress, walked into history. The room was cold, lit in that sterile white-blue glow of classified bunkers. Around him sat the ghosts of Earth's real government, figures whose names never made headlines, whose decisions carved the bones of nations. They didn't speak much, they didn't need to. One of them simply turned the screen around. It showed the prototype, WS-01, World Ship 1. Roughly the size of Neptune, hollowed asteroid core, fused with trillions of tons of synthetic alloys, and a quantum AI core built from stolen Prekthari tech. The kind of thing you don't build unless you plan to rewrite the laws of war. Tavik stared at it for 5 seconds. Then he said the only thing that needed saying, "How many do we have?" That was 23 years ago. Now he stood on the command bridge of WS-07, merciless, orbiting what used to be the Trivan capital. Their planetary defenses were gone, not bypassed, erased. They hadn't even seen it coming. The warship had entered their system behind a solar flare surge, moving silent, its power cores cloaked. When it fired, it didn't launch missiles. It shifted gravity. One command, and the planet cracked open like a boiled egg. Tavik didn't flinch. He didn't cheer. He didn't even blink. Because this was never about vengeance. It was about warning. The Galactic Council had spent decades manipulating lesser species, bullying, enslaving, stripping resources, rewriting cultures to suit their needs. Earth had learned the hard way. The Varnak's purge cost them 13 colonies, 6 billion dead, no sanctions, no justice, just laughter in the council chambers. So humanity disappeared, or so it seemed. They pulled back from trade, collapsed visible infrastructure, let the galaxy believe they were fractured and dying. But underground, beneath false ruins and ice-covered tombs, they built machines meant to reshape destiny. Empires had laughed then, now they begged. Tavik turned to his AI interface, a slim obsidian disk embedded in the command rail. Status of WS-09? Cloaked, positioned above the Delsurai prime sun, awaiting ignition. And casualties from the Trivan strike? Planetary loss, 9.3 billion. Fleet loss, 476 capital ships. Resistance, none. He nodded. Broadcast the message. A hologlobe flickered to life behind him, sending a wave through subspace. A transmission, short and brutal, now screamed across every council channel. This is not war, this is reckoning. You hunted us when we were weak. Now you fall in silence, one by one, no mercy, no treaty. Earth does not forget. The message ended. Across the stars, empires trembled. Tavik stood silent, watching the remnants of Trivan burn. He wasn't a hero. He was a reminder. And the reminders were only beginning. They called it the Varnak's Purge. Officially, it was never recognized as genocide, no tribunal convened, no apology ever whispered. In the records of the Galactic Council, it was marked simply as a resource reclamation event. But Tavik had been there. Not on the colony itself. He'd been stationed on a patrol ship in the outer Kuiper Belt when the news came in. One of the youngest Earthfleet officers, still naive enough to believe diplomacy worked, that the Council could be reasoned with. He remembered watching the footage from a Trinarian courier vessel. The sky over Earthlight 7 bloomed red. Orbital platforms melted, children screaming as fusion bombs turned their cities into craters. Entire atmospheres stripped within minutes. The Varnaks had claimed that Earthlight had violated galactic mining boundaries, that it was an illegal settlement, built too close to a crystalline harvest zone. They accused humanity of theft, of trespassing. The Council didn't even let Earth respond. They voted, unanimous, sanction Earth, allow the Varnaks to enforce compliance. What they really did was hand 6 billion souls over to executioners. Tavik's brother had been there. Ryan, a logistics technician with a smart mouth and hands always covered in grease. He used to send Tavik messages with old Earth jokes and pictures of the makeshift basketball court they'd built out of scrap. The last message Tavik got was audio only, static, panic, fire in the background. We're burning! We're burning! They're not even... Jesus, they're not even talking! Tavik, if you get this, tell Mom! Then silence. That silence lived in Tavik's chest for 23 years. He rose fast after that, joined black projects, said yes to things others were afraid to speak about. He became the kind of man who didn't blink when an empire died, because the universe had taught him something brutal. You either become a monster, or you get eaten by one. So Earth became the monster. Back on WS-07, the aftermath of Trevon played out with eerie calm. The ship's AI, named Vigilant, streamed reports directly into Tavik's neural interface. He barely had to move. Every aspect of the warship was voice-responsive, mentally synced. From the deepest hull drones to the planetary rupture cannons at its core, Tavik was the ship in all but flesh. The rest of the galaxy didn't know the half of it. WS-07 was one of 13. Each war world had a different function, a different weaponized principle. Some used gravitational collapse. Others wielded singularity cannons or entropy fields. WS-09, the one parked above Delsurai's sun, was a solar igniter. It could destabilize stellar cores and cause stars to nova. Not just destroy planets, erase entire systems. Earth had stolen tech from every empire that ever crossed them. Biological weaponry from the Threshari, temporal manipulation from the Ekari, even emotion interference systems from the Dirzan, tools to make enemies feel despair, guilt, confusion on a massive scale. Humanity didn't just learn from its enemies, it outpaced them. In the command deck, Tavik's second-in-command entered. A man named Rendal, grizzled, sharp-eyed, and loyal to a fault. He had once been a weapons engineer, then a rogue operative after his family was vaporized during the Dravik raids. Earth had saved him, or more accurately, given him purpose. They're panicking, Rendal said, handing Tavik a visual feed. Council fleets have pulled back from 5 sectors. The Zorath have requested peace talks. The Garuni are abandoning border colonies. Tavik grunted. Let them run. They'll find no safe harbor. Rendal hesitated. You sure you want to hit Delsurai next? Their citizens supported Earth. There were protest movements, dissidents. Tavik turned. His eyes were cold. Ice without thaw. Their government voted for the embargo. Their leaders cheered when the Trinarian embargo cut off our medical colonies. They let 10,000 children die for political clout. He paused. They're next. Silence stretched. Rendell nodded. Understood. They both knew what came next was irreversible. Not just war. Unmaking. Humanity wasn't playing galactic politics anymore. It was sending a message etched in systems-wide extinction. Never touch Earth again. But Tavik wasn't a machine. Behind the steel and silence, there were still pieces of a man. Sometimes they floated up at night. Memories of old Earth sunsets, of riding broken-down bikes with Ryan through ruined suburbs, of laughter before the world turned cold. He never told anyone, but before every strike, he listened to Ryan's last message again. Not for guilt, but for focus. That night, as WS-09's ignition cycle prepared, Tavik stood alone in his private chamber, eyes closed, neural sync offline. Just silence. And in that silence, the echo returned. "They're not even talking, Tavik, if you get this." He clenched his jaw, not to hold back pain, to hold back peace. The world wasn't ready for peace, not yet. Not until the last empire who ever tasted joy from Earth's suffering begged for darkness. When he returned to the bridge, the countdown had begun. WS-09 standing by, Vigilant announced. Solar ignition parameters optimal. Delsurai star will reach critical phase within 31.2 minutes of detonation. Evacuation warnings? None. We remain undetected. Tavik inhaled. Fire. A burst of command data surged through hyperspace, piercing the gap between war worlds like a whisper through silk. On a far-flung system, a false asteroid unfolded. Spines extended, energy spikes charged, and a spear of modified dark matter injected itself into the Delsurai star. The sun trembled. Then it began to scream. Across the system, watchers panicked as their light began to flicker. Gravitational waves knocked satellites out of orbit. The sky went from gold to sickly blue, then red, then black, and then it exploded. One sun, 6 planets, 12 billion souls. Gone. When the reports reached the Council, they did not debate. They did not convene. They collapsed. A dozen worlds demanded emergency secession from Council oversight. Others turned inward, shrouding themselves in primitive defense nets. But none of it mattered. Because by then, the question was not how many ships did Earth build. The question was, how many are left? And who's next? Tavik stood again at the bridge, watching the star flare out in a plume of cosmic fire. He didn't smile. He didn't curse. He simply whispered, 2 down. And the darkness whispered back, 11 to go. The galaxy began to fracture. Delsurai's destruction didn't just wipe out a system, it shattered the illusion of control. The Galactic Council, once a towering structure of bureaucracy, military might, and political manipulation, now resembled a wounded animal. Its members no longer met in their fortified citadel above Sarian Prime. They hid in undisclosed locations, connected only by encrypted bursts of communication. Half of them didn't even bother to respond. Others sent desperate messages into deep space, hoping to find allies, hiding places, or salvation. But salvation didn't come. What came instead was a single repeated message, playing on every frequency, breaking through every shield and firewall. Earth remembers. Earth repays. Tavik had that phrase carved above the entrance to the War Council chamber of WS-07. It was crude, burned into the reinforced steel with a plasma torch. No digital banner, no elegant display. Just a reminder. Because for the first time in recorded galactic history, the Council wasn't at war with an alien empire. It was at war with an idea that a species could rise from the ashes without permission and strike back so hard it made the stars weep. But Tavik knew the path ahead wasn't all fire and dominance. Trouble was brewing, not from outside, but from within. WS-03 Iron Will had gone silent. It wasn't an enemy attack. No fleet, no weapon in known space could touch a world ship. If any alien had tried, they'd be stardust now. No, the silence was internal, a mutiny. They called themselves the sanctionists, human-born, Earth-raised officers and crew who believed Tavik had gone too far. That wiping out billions, no matter how complicit, made Earth no better than its enemies. They believed in restraint, in diplomacy returning when fear had done its job. Fools. Tavik had known some cracks would appear. People born after the purge. People raised in the secrecy of Earth's underground rebirth, but who never felt the cold snap of loss firsthand. To them, the galaxy's agony was theoretical. To Tavik, it was blood on the floor, bones in dust. He stood in the gravity chamber watching a simulated reenactment of Earthlight 7's last hours. He had it built not for remembrance, but for clarity. Cities exploded again and again in digital fire. Civilians screamed, children ran through smoke. Then silence, always silence. Rendell approached, grim. WS-03 has formally broken command protocol. They've disabled their quantum receivers. No uplink, no coordination. Tavik didn't turn. How many support them? Rough estimate, a third of the crew, led by Commander Kellen. Kellen? Tavik's voice darkened. I trained him myself. Rendell gave a short nod. They're calling for a ceasefire, a declaration of strength without genocide. They say you've become the very tyrant Earth vowed to destroy. Tavik finally turned. His face was stone. They didn't live it, Rendell. They read it in files, in bedtime stories. He paused. I want contact re-established. If they refuse, you'll strike one of our own? Tavik looked out at the stars beyond the observation glass. If Earth shows hesitation now, even once, the entire galaxy will turn on us. They fear us because we've become unpredictable, because we do what they never believed possible. Rendell said nothing, but his silence spoke louder than any protest. Aboard WS-03, Commander Kellen stood before his own war council. The room wasn't as brutal as Tavik's. Sleek walls, smoother design, Earth's newer generation of thinkers. Scientists, diplomats, military hybrids. They had grown up in the planning phase of the world ships, not the fire that birthed the need for them. We can't keep doing this, Kellen said, standing before his officers. Delsurai wasn't an enemy world. Yes, their leaders supported sanctions, but billions of innocent civilians lived there. Do you think they all voted? That every child in that system deserved to burn in a starburst? One of the younger officers, a girl barely 25, spoke up. If we stop now, won't that show weakness? Won't the Council retaliate the second they think we're backing off? Kellen nodded. That's the balance. We need strength, but with principle. Tavik is turning Earth's name into a curse, a warning whispered in horror. That's not leadership. That's a war crime machine on autopilot. The room was split. Fear lingered. Loyalty to Earth, to Tavik, to vengeance. It all clashed in unspoken tension. But Kellen was steady, and dangerous in his conviction. We take WS-03 to the edge of neutral space. We send a message, not to the Council, but to Earth, a demand to end the campaign, to open diplomacy under the shadow of our power. And if Tavik says no? Kellen's jaw tightened. Then we show him Earth's future doesn't belong to his ghosts. Back on WS-07, Tavik watched the latest footage. Kellen's ship, parked in the Omega Drift, broadcasting messages of peace, begging council remnants for a summit. It wasn't betrayal. It was stupidity. He had once called Kellen a son. Now he saw him for what he really was, a weak link. "Prepare WS-12, Tavik ordered. Rendell blinked. 12? The Forge? WS-12 was the newest world ship, still being tested. Its core weapon wasn't physical destruction, but biological. It carried the Genoblite, a virus designed not to kill, but to rewrite. It broke neural patterns in alien species, made them forget who they were, collapsed civilizations from within by scrambling identity, culture, history, a mind wipe on a planetary scale. Tavik didn't want to use it. But he needed the galaxy to understand. If Earth couldn't strike a world ship that went rogue, they were nothing. "Rendell," he said quietly, "contact Kellen. Tell him he has one chance. 1 dot. And if he refuses?" Tavik stared at the stars. "Then we erase the mutiny. Mind, memory, and name." While Tavik played the long game of control and fear, something else stirred in the ruins of Delsurai. Not all of its people had died. A few military vessels had escaped before the star ignited, scattered, lost, but not broken. Among them, a woman named Commander Aerys survived. Her ship was shielded deep within a gas giant during the ignition. She watched her son die, her family, her home. She blamed Tavik. She also blamed her own leaders. And now she gathered what little remained of her civilization, turning from mourning to purpose. She wasn't going to beg for help from the council. She wasn't going to cry for justice. She was going to do what no one else had managed. She was going to hunt the Warmaker himself. Earth thought it was unstoppable, but vengeance was universal. And sometimes, a single ember from a burned world was all it took to light an inferno. Kellen stood alone in the observation chamber of WS-03 Iron Will, staring at the edge of the Omega Drift. The stars here were quieter, more distant, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. His hands were clasped behind his back, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed the war he was fighting inside. He knew Tavik would come. Maybe not with words, maybe not with reason. But he would come. Tavik didn't tolerate dissent. He didn't just destroy empires. He erased hesitation. The message Kellen sent to Earth hadn't been a declaration of rebellion. Not in his eyes. It was a call for balance, a plea to remember humanity's soul before it burned away completely. But in Tavik's mind, that probably registered as treason. Weakness. Kellen had once idolized the man. In the early years, Tavik had been a symbol of resistance, a survivor who turned pain into resolve. But now he had become something else entirely, a force of destruction without pause. Behind Kellen, Lieutenant Merrill entered the chamber. "They're coming." "How many?" WS-12 for sure. No escorts on radar yet, but likely more behind the veil. Kellen sighed. "He sent the Forge." Merrill didn't speak. The implications were already clear. WS-12 was a prototype. Unleashed this early, it meant one thing. Tavik wasn't coming to negotiate. He was coming to dismantle them. Kellen turned, eyes sharp. "Arm our interceptors. Prep our pulse shields. No one fires unless fired upon." "You think he'll talk?" "No," Kellen said bitterly. "But I have to believe the crew still might." Across the stars, aboard WS-12 The Forge, Tavik stood in the tactical core, face lit by crimson data streams. This ship was different. Its walls pulsed with a faint organic sheen, biotech interwoven with synthetic command threads. The Genoblite was alive in a way no weapon should be. Rendell looked disturbed. You really mean to deploy it? If Kellen refuses to fall in line, then yes. There's still a way to bring him back. He's not coming back, Tavik snapped. He made his choice the second he let his conscience speak louder than command. Rendell hesitated. You trained him. You trusted him. And that's why this hurts. But it's also why I won't hesitate. Tavik moved to the deployment terminal. A dark sphere rotated slowly in its stasis shell. The Genoblite, invisible to most sensors but fatal to identity. It wouldn't kill Kellen or his crew. It would erase their history, rewrite their neural paths until they couldn't remember Earth, their mission, even their names. They would be blank slates drifting in space. Not dead. Just gone. Contact WS-03, Tavik ordered. Last warning. The comms crackled to life in WS-03's command bridge. Tavik, Kellen's voice was even. I see you brought the forge. Tavik's voice replied with the weight of finality. You are in violation of command protocol. You've broadcast unauthorized messages to enemy channels. You've broken formation and gone dark for 72 hours. You are hereby considered compromised. I'm not compromised, Kellen replied. I'm conscious. You've killed nearly 20 billion beings across 3 systems. You've become what they feared. Worse than what they ever were. Tavik said nothing for a beat. Then, stand down. Return to Earthfleet coordination. Or you'll be nullified. Nullified? These are human lives, Tavik. No, Tavik said coldly. These are ghosts. Hollow men carrying ideals that died with Earthlight 7. The world you want back doesn't exist. Only survival does now. The channel cut. Kellen stood in silence. Merrill looked pale. What do we do? Kellen turned to his officers. Ready our own quantum scramblers. If he deploys the virus, we'll scatter. I'd rather vanish into exile than become a shell of myself. A younger tech spoke up. Sir, incoming spike. WS-12 is arming the payload. Kellen's jaw tightened. So it's come to this. Shield up. All decks prepare for electromagnetic fallback. Then, something unexpected happened. In the darkness beyond both ships, another signal flared to life. Unregistered, unknown. A vessel decloaked, not Council, not Earth Fleet, and not small. The bridge of WS-03 lit up in warning. Unknown vessel approaching. Massive displacement. Unknown energy signature. They were cloaked until now. Merrill squinted. It's not Tavik, not us. Who the hell is that? Kellen's face hardened. Then the message came through. A voice. Cold. Female. This is Commander Aerys of the Delsurai Sovereign Remnant. You killed my world. Now I end yours. And just like that, the battlefield shifted. Aerys stood aboard her cobbled-together juggernaut, the Ashwaker, built from scraps of Delsurai escape vessels, outlaw tech, black market singularity drives, and raw desperation. It was no world ship, but it was a monster all its own. She had spent months in hiding, rebuilding, watching, and when she saw Tavik prepare to attack his own, she saw opportunity. Weakness. You built your monsters, Earth, she whispered, but you didn't see the ones you created in us. She launched the first strike. Not at Tavik, at Kellen, not because she knew who he was, but because she wanted Earth to bleed first inside. Let them destroy each other. Let them tear themselves apart while she fed the fire. WS-03 rocked violently. "They're attacking us!" a lieutenant shouted. "Not Tavik?" "No, Delsurai." Kellen cursed. "Open hails. Tell them we're not part of Tavik's strikes. We stood down." No response. A second barrage slammed into their hull. The ship's left armory vented into space. "They're jamming comms." Kellen turned, furious. "All shields forward. We'll deal with Tavik later." He didn't realize it yet, but Aerys had done what the Council never could. She had made Earth fight itself. On WS-12, Tavik watched the chaos unfold. Kellen's ship under fire. A new enemy entering the field. Part of him felt satisfaction. Let the traitors burn. But another part, buried deep, hardened but not entirely dead, hesitated. Then Rendell said something unexpected. "Sir, we're picking up escape pods." "From who?" WS-03. Civilians, cadets, medical staff. They're abandoning ship. Kellen didn't shield them in time. Tavik's eyes narrowed. And something, some flicker of the man he used to be, moved. "Pull back the forge," he ordered. Rendell stared. "What?" "Pull it back. The Delsurai want blood. Let them take it from someone else." "You're sparing Kellen?" "Number, I'm letting him see what mercy costs." Tavik stepped forward. "Rescue the pods. Only the pods. WS-03 is on its own." In the firestorm of betrayal, vengeance, and ideology, three factions now spun out into chaos. Tavik, the warlord trying to control the monster he forged. Kellen, the idealist, fighting to save what little conscience humanity had left. And Aerys, the avenger, burning down the galaxy to soothe her ruin. The stars had never known such silence, or such rage. The silence after the storm was worse than the battle itself. WS-03 drifted, venting plasma from its ruptured dorsal flank. Fires raged through compartments where automated systems had failed. Life support was holding by a thread, and a third of the crew was dead or missing. The rest were either scrambling for control or staring into nothing, paralyzed by the betrayal of an enemy they hadn't expected. Aerys's attack hadn't been precise. It was raw vengeance, a hammer blow swung with rage rather than strategy. She didn't want prisoners. She wanted ashes. Kellen sat slumped in the secondary command chair, half his face streaked with soot and blood. Merrill stood next to him, visibly shaken, holding a handheld terminal trying to re-establish contact with their fleet AI. "We lost external sensors. Mainframe's unresponsive." "How many casualties?" Kellen rasped. "Too many. Escape pods made it, though. Tavik pulled them in." That made Kellen pause. "He what?" Merrill nodded. "He didn't fire on us. He held back the forge. Just let the remnants hit us. Then rescued our pods." Kellen blinked through the pain. "No speech? No mercy mission?" "Nope, just watched. Cold as ever." That made it worse somehow. Tavik didn't need to fire a weapon to destroy someone. Sometimes he let the universe do the killing and stood by while it happened. Let them realize what mercy cost. Let it eat them alive. Back on WS-12, Tavik studied the survivors pulled from the pods. Young, scared, some injured. Most didn't understand why their own kind had turned against them. He didn't speak to them directly. He simply watched from behind the observation glass. Rendell approached, holding a datapad. "They're clean, no mutiny connections. Mostly medics, junior techs, a few cadets. No sign of Kellen." Tavik nodded slowly. "Let them recover. Assign them quarters on Deck 14. "You're not sending them back?" Tavik's jaw clenched. There's nothing to send them back to. He stared out at the stars, but they offered no answers. He wanted Earth to be better, Tavik muttered. Didn't realize the galaxy only respects fire. The galaxy was fracturing, and Tavik, once the vanguard of Earth's vengeance, now walked a razor-thin edge between strategic terror and absolute collapse. The warships, though mighty, weren't invincible. They relied on fear, the illusion of unity. But when one warship broke rank and another rogue element like Aerys emerged, it signaled to everyone that Earth was not a singular force. It was divided, and in division, even titans bleed. Elsewhere, Aerys sat in the command chair of the Ashwaker, fingers trembling, jaw set tight. They'd done it. They'd struck Earth, or at least struck one of its monstrous arms. Her crew, loyal remnants of Delsurai's shattered defense fleet, sat in stunned silence. They had expected death, martyrdom, not survival. But now, there was blood in the water, and they had lived. "Status?" Aerys asked, her voice sharp. "We did damage. WS-03 is still operational but crippled. Their escape pods were intercepted by another Earth warship." Aerys clenched her fists. "Let them rescue their own traitors. We made our point." Another officer hesitated. "Ma'am, what if they retaliate? Then we give them more of what they're not ready for." She stood, eyes burning. "We're not just survivors. We're evolution. Earth turned itself into a monster. Fine. Let's become the poison they never see coming." For Aerys, this wasn't a single battle. It was recruitment. Across the galaxy, dozens of species still hated Earth, still feared Tavik, still remembered the fires of Trivan and Delsurai. Aerys would find them, unite them, give them something they hadn't had in years, a target they believed they could strike, because Tavik had overplayed his hand. And when you build weapons that burn entire systems, everyone eventually wants a match. Back on WS-07, Tavik returned from the refugee deck to the command chamber. He hadn't spoken to Kellen directly. He didn't need to. Kellen would understand. Letting WS-03 live was the loudest message Tavik could have sent. But something still gnawed at him. For 23 years, Tavik had believed in two truths. Earth was hunted, and only overwhelming power could prevent another purge. But now, staring at the stars that blinked coldly back, another truth took shape. He had no exit strategy, no plan for peace, no path to reconciliation, only more war, more destruction. And that realization, no matter how buried, began to rot in the back of his mind. He turned to Vigilant, the AI of WS-07. "Status of Council communications." "Dormant," the AI replied. "Encrypted pings continue across dormant relay networks. Most factions in disarray. Some new chatter from outer fringe." "What kind of chatter?" "Unregistered ships, nomadic fleets, unusual unity among scattered remnants." Tavik narrowed his eyes. "Aerys." "Yes, possibly coordinating." Tavik stepped forward. "Send a ghost ping, observe only. If she starts building alliances—" "We'll know," the AI finished. Tavik exhaled. He wasn't ready for a second front. But he would be. Kellen, meanwhile, lay in WS-03's medbay. Cracked ribs, burned arm, exhausted. Marl sat beside him. "Orders?" Kellen closed his eyes. "Send a transmission to Tavik. No protest, no justification. Just this. We stood for something, and that's why we survived." "Do you think he'll understand?" "No," Kellen whispered. But maybe someone else will. At the same time, in the outskirts of the Vega expanse, a council remnant received a strange signal. Encrypted, ancient, it carried a single phrase in a dead language, but they knew it well. Earth remembers. And beneath it, something new. But Earth is not alone anymore. The Vega expanse was once a graveyard, empty systems left behind by civilizations too weak to matter. Now it was waking up. Aerys stood at the center of a massive orbital hangar cobbled together from wreckage and stolen tech. Behind her, the Ashwaker floated like a predator at rest. Before her were delegates from 12 shattered worlds. They weren't diplomats. They were warlords, insurgents, defectors, and survivors. The kind of people who had watched their homes vanish under Earth's new war doctrine. They didn't trust each other, but they hated Tavik more. Aerys raised a hand, and the room quieted. You've all seen what Earth has become. You watched Trevon fall. You saw Delsurai's son die. Some of you were Council sympathizers. Others were rebels before Earth even lifted its first warship. But now we're all the same. She walked forward, her voice sharp and cold. You think Tavik is invincible? He's not. I crippled one of his warships with half the weapons you have in this room, and the rest? They're divided. Earth is no longer united. It's tearing itself apart. A grizzled Tharn warlord snarled. Even divided, they could erase this system in seconds. They could, Aerys admitted, but they won't. Why? She smiled. Because they've lost the why. She stepped back and activated a holofeed. It showed the survivors of WS-03, the ones Tavik had rescued. Their faces, young, human, afraid, disillusioned, spread across the screen. They didn't fight. They didn't retaliate. They were spared, not out of mercy, out of uncertainty. Aerys turned to the room. Earth's greatest weapon is Tavik, but Tavik is alone. The room buzzed with unease. Someone whispered, Then we don't fight Earth, we fight him. Exactly, Aerys said, and just like that, a coalition was born. Not of heroes, but of monsters with a common enemy. Tavik stood in WS-07's central chamber, watching encrypted feeds roll across the tactical board. His network of ghost satellites was intercepting the first solid signs of coordinated resistance. Multiple species, unified protocols. One name repeated over and over. Aerys! He leaned forward, silent. Rendell entered behind him. You saw it? Yes. She's forming something. A movement, Tavik said quietly, and she's smart. She's not attacking directly. She's turning others against us, against me. Rendell approached slowly. We still have overwhelming force. Force doesn't matter if fear fades. Tavik knew this moment would come. Every empire in history overplayed its hand eventually. He had gambled on fear being enough to buy Earth safety. Now fear was thinning, and doubt was spreading like cracks in hull metal. Even his own crew noticed. He'd caught whispers, officers exchanging glances, crew members questioning the silence from Earth Command. Not all of Earth's leadership had survived the Great Retreat underground, and those who had were fragmented, arguing in hidden bunkers about Tavik's methods. Some called him savior. Others whispered a word far more dangerous. Liability. WS-03 drifted in orbit above a dead moon for emergency repairs. The crew had patched the worst damage. Kellen was back on his feet, though still leaning on a cane from a fractured hip. The scars from Aerys's assault ran deeper than flesh. The internal monitors were back online, and what they saw shocked them. Footage of Aerys's speech in the Vega Expanse had gone viral, not just in alien networks, but in hidden Earth fleet circles. The phrase that kept repeating, "Tavik is not Earth." Kellen stared at the screen, silent. Meryl sat nearby, reading messages intercepted from Council remnants. "They're organizing around her," she said. "She did what we didn't," Kellen replied. "She made people believe." Meryl gave him a look. "They're already calling you the Ghost Commander, the one who stood up to Tavik and lived." Kellen gave a tired chuckle. "That's generous. I didn't stand up. I got wrecked." "But you refused to kill." Kellen's smile faded. "I didn't refuse because of mercy. I refused because I thought someone had to remember what we were." He stood slowly. The pain was manageable. "Record a message," he said. "To who?" "To Earth and to the galaxy." The transmission spread like wildfire. Kellen, standing in his torn officer's coat, face bruised but voice steady. He didn't beg for peace. He didn't apologize. He simply said, "We were supposed to be better. We rose from ruin not to burn others, but to protect ourselves. Somewhere along the way we forgot that difference. I fought with Tavik. I believed in him. He saved us from extinction. But now he's writing our extinction into the stars, one world at a time. Earth is not one man. We're not warships. We're not fear. If Tavik hears this, I say this as someone who once followed him without question. Stand down. Let us rebuild. Or you'll burn away everything you swore to protect." The message was short, but its weight was undeniable. Tavik saw it. He watched it twice. Then turned the screen off. Rendell waited. "He's become a symbol." Tavik nodded. "He's become a problem." "You could kill him." "I could," Tavik said, "but I won't." "Why?" Tavik turned, and for the first time his voice cracked, not with emotion, but with gravity. "Because if I kill him now, I prove him right." In the cold beyond known space, Aerys watched the message too. Her war council was already debating. "He's a weakling." "No, he's leverage." "Too soft to survive." Aerys raised a hand. "Let him speak." They paused. "He's not our enemy," she said. "He's the bridge." "Between what?" Aerys turned to them. "Between Tavik and the end of Earth's control." In bunkers deep beneath Earth's crust, the surviving remnants of its real leadership, scientists, strategists, shadow politicians, met in emergency conference. One man stood, watching the same broadcast. He was old, gaunt, a name no one had spoken aloud in a decade. He turned to his council and said only one thing: "Recall Tavik." The room fell silent, and the future began to bend. The recall message came through a forgotten protocol, one Tavik hadn't seen in 15 years. It was buried in the neural systems of WS-07, accessed only through a private encryption key known to a dozen people on Earth, 11 of whom were supposed to be dead. But one survived. And his voice, low and precise, cracked through Tavik's command console like a ghost dragging its nails across his brain stem. Tavik stared at the message. He didn't move, didn't blink. The seal on the transmission, the triple helix spiral of Earth's true authority, not the showboat governments or puppet generals, confirmed it was real. Someone above him had resurfaced, and they were pulling the plug. Rendell stood behind him, watching the screen flicker. "They're recalling you. They're daring me." "You'll disobey?" Rendell asked, quiet. Tavik looked away. I gave them 23 years of loyalty. I saved them from extinction. When the Council came for our blood, they hid. I fought. I built the thing that kept Earth alive. Rendell didn't argue, but the silence between them said enough. Tavik's grip tightened. I'll return, he said finally. But on my terms. Back on WS-03, the crew watched Earth's recall order like it was an act of divine intervention. Some cheered, others were cautious. Kellen didn't cheer at all. He sat in the auxiliary chamber, watching Maril replay the message. He's going back, she said. Maybe they'll lock him up. Maybe they'll strip the warships. Kellen didn't answer. You don't believe it? I believe in politics, Kellen said, and I believe they'll leash him, for now. But Tavik isn't a soldier anymore. He's a belief, a momentum. He leaned forward. And momentum doesn't stop because someone tells it to. He stood slowly and turned to her. We're leaving orbit. Where? To Vega Expanse. To Aerys? Yes. Maril stiffened. You think she'll listen? No, Kellen said honestly, but she's winning, and if we don't stand between her and what comes next, she'll burn Earth down just to feel even. He paused. And I won't let humanity become a warning. Aerys stood in her chamber, watching fleets arrive. What had started as a scattered resistance was now a mobile armada. 37 ships, spread across 6 species. Some old Council destroyers, others were scrap-built, barely space-worthy, but they all shared one thing. Hatred. Not just for Earth, but for Tavik, for what he represented. Her tech officer approached. WS-03 has left lunar orbit. They're heading here. Aerys nodded. Let them. He's not Tavik. The officer hesitated. You think Kellen will fight? No, Aerys said. I think he'll try to stop us. The officer tilted his head. From what? Aerys looked out the viewport. The end. Tavik docked WS-07 in high Earth orbit, flanked by 3 escort drones and a silent welcome. No grand ceremony, no parade, only silence. He exited alone. No security met him. Only one man, old, bald, eyes sunken by time. Director Halver. Once the chief of Earth Strategic Command, now a myth whispered by inner circle planners. You're late, Halver said. You're alive, Tavik replied. Halver gave a ghost of a smile. They entered the old command compound deep beneath Greenland's ice shelf, untouched since the collapse, a place where Earth's secret decisions were made long before the Council ever knew Earth was awake. They walked in silence until they reached the command chamber. Screens flickered. Satellites showed galactic chaos. The war Tavik had started had spread. You burned too much, Halver said. I made Earth safe. You made us a target. I made us untouchable, Tavik snapped. You made yourself a god, Halver said calmly, and now your worshippers are leaving. Tavik turned away, jaw locked. Halver continued. Aerys is no longer just a threat. She's a figurehead. Your enemies now have structure. Kellen gave them conscience. Aerys gave them fire. Tavik clenched his fists. And what does Earth want? Halver stared. We want peace. Tavik scoffed. There's no peace with ghosts. Halver's voice dropped. There's no future with you. The words hit harder than any fleet blast. Tavik didn't respond. He simply turned and walked away. In the Vega Expanse, WS-03 arrived near the Coalition fleet. No one opened fire, but every cannon was aimed. Aerys met Kellen aboard a neutral vessel. The meeting was tense. No guards, just two leaders who should have been enemies. She studied him like a broken weapon. "You look tired." "I am," Kellen said. "You?" "I sleep just fine," Aerys replied. "Guilt doesn't live in people like me." Kellen didn't rise to the bait. "I didn't come to fight you." "Then why?" "To stop you." Aerys laughed bitterly. "Stop me from what? Getting justice? I watched my family burn, my planet die, Earth killed gods. I'm just killing soldiers." Kellen shook his head. "Number, you're building an empire of revenge, and the moment you fire on Earth, you become what Tavik became." Aerys leaned in. "I'm fine with that." "I'm not." He pulled out a tablet, played a video. Tavik, back on Earth. Silent. Leashed. Not a hero. Not a martyr. Just a man at the edge of his myth. Aerys watched, expression unreadable, then said, "So what now?" Kellen looked her dead in the eyes. "We stop writing history in fire." The Coalition Council met that night. Aerys stood before them. "Kellen thinks we stop here, that we let Earth live, that we call this a win." Murmurs, some angry, some uncertain. She raised a hand. "I say no." More murmurs. "I say Earth pays for every world it burned, for Trevian, for Delsurai, for the children who never got a chance." Then a pause. "But—" Silence. "If we kill Earth now, we kill any chance of meaning. Tavik dies a martyr, a symbol of strength. Kellen dies a fool. We become monsters." Her voice softened. "We can stop." "Will you?" someone asked. Aerys looked out the viewport. The stars blinked, watching. "I don't know." Back on Earth, Tavik sat alone in the observation chamber of WS-07. Stripped of rank, but not of purpose, he stared at the stars he once commanded, and whispered, "They still need me." The sky above Earth hadn't changed in 23 years. Still the same sun, the same pale moon, the same stars that stared down, cold and distant, on a planet that once begged the galaxy to notice it. And now wished the galaxy would forget. But on this day, something new hovered just beyond the mesosphere. A fleet. Not Tavik's, not Earth's. The Coalition. 58 ships, 6 species, 1 target. They didn't hide. They didn't broadcast threats. They just waited, because inside the lead ship, Ashwaker, Commander Aerys was waiting too. Waiting to see if Earth would respond with Tavik's flame, or Kellen's restraint. In the deep command bunkers, Earth's emergency cabinet sat in silence, eyes fixed on orbital monitors. Tavik sat at the edge of the room, no longer in uniform, no longer in control, yet still the only man every single person in that room feared. Director Halver turned to him. "What would you do?" Tavik leaned forward slowly. "Target their engines. Disable half. Warn the rest. They'll back down. They might fire first." Tavik's eyes didn't blink. "Then you give them a reason never to fire again." Halver looked to the others. "We didn't recall him to lead another massacre." Tavik stood. "Then you should have let me die out there." He left the room. No one stopped him. Outside, high above the atmosphere, the warships waited. On the bridge of Ashwaker, Aerys stared at Earth through her viewport. "Any movement?" she asked. Her XO shook his head. "Radio silence. They're watching us, waiting. A long pause. Then, Kellen has landed. Aerys exhaled. And he's heading into Earth Command alone. No escort, no shield, just a man with nothing left to protect but the truth. Kellen descended into the deepest level of the bunker and found Tavik standing in the observation corridor of WS-07. They hadn't spoken face-to-face since before the Delsurai strike. He walked in slow, his cane tapping like a metronome marking the end of an era. Tavik didn't turn. "You shouldn't be here," Tavik said quietly. "Someone has to be," Kellen replied. Tavik sighed. "They want peace." "And you?" Tavik finally turned. "They're weak." "No," Kellen said. "They're tired." Tavik stepped forward, close enough to stare directly into Kellen's scarred face. "You think Aerys will stop? You think she came here to talk?" "I don't know what she came for," Kellen replied, "but I came here to end this." Tavik scoffed. "You came here to beg." "No," Kellen said, voice firm. "I came here to remind you what you started this for, what we all started this for." "Survival," Tavik snapped. "No," Kellen whispered. "Remembrance." And Tavik froze, because the word hit him harder than any weapon ever could. On the Ashwaker, Aerys paced. Still no missiles, still no voice from Earth. Then a light blinked. Incoming transmission. From Earth. She braced. "Play it." It was Kellen. Tired, weathered, but unbroken. "This is Commander Kellen of WS-03. We've made mistakes, we've killed, we've burned. But not because we loved war, because we feared silence. Fear made us dangerous. Tavik made us safe. But safety built on fear becomes a prison. Today I speak not as a commander, but as a human. We remember Trivan, Delsurai, Earthlight. We remember all the dead. So if this is the day we die, then let it be in truth. But if it's the day we live, then let it be in memory. I ask for one act of peace, one day, one step." Silence followed. Aerys sat still. No one spoke. Then her hands moved. She opened a channel. To Earth. On Earth, the emergency chamber held its breath. "Transmission from Ashwaker. Put it through." Aerys appeared. No rage, no threat, just eyes that had seen too much loss. "I buried my children under a dead sun. I swore I'd see Earth bleed for it. But now I see a man who gave me back choice. We'll stand down. For now. But Earth must stand down too. Dismantle your warships. Tear down your god machines. Or next time, no one walks away." The message ended. And Earth didn't fire. Neither did she. 3 days later, in the Vega expanse, Aerys stepped onto the council platform, not as a warlord, but as a representative. She didn't smile. She didn't apologize. But she laid down her weapons. Beside her, Kellen stood in silence. He'd made no speeches, but somehow, in surviving Tavik, he became louder than Tavik ever was. WS-07 was decommissioned, its core dismantled, its AI purged. Tavik watched the process in silence. He didn't protest, didn't ask for his rank, didn't ask for forgiveness. He simply said to Rendell, the last friend he had, "Tell them I never wanted to be remembered, just feared." And then he walked into obscurity. No grave, no monument, just silence. Years passed. The galaxy remembered Earth, not as a tyrant, not as a saint, but as a scar. And in that scar grew something like peace. Not perfect, but earned. The warships were gone. The Council never rebuilt. And the stars, for once, went quiet.